Welcome back to Eddie's Launchpads, the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast for parents, carers, teachers and schools. Dogsthorpe Infant School is part of Hampton Academies Trust. We want every child to dream, believe and shine.
OK, Eddie, start the countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This podcast is brought to you by Eddie Edster, the Dogsthorpe Infant School Wellbeing Dog.
Welcome back to Dogsthorpe Infant Schools podcast for parents, teachers and schools. Now, last week we had a great guest on, Farmer Luke, and he was telling us all about his life down on his farm, and he was talking about the quality of food and how our children don't know where our food is coming from. So hopefully we're going to learn a lot more from Luke today. Welcome back, Luke.
It's an honour to be here. Absolute honour. I'll tell you why it's an honour as well, because it's part two.
Part two. Let's not waste any time and get back to what we was talking about, and which was about our children not knowing about food and how it's produced. And I worry, because being someone who my farm was on the North Downs of Kent, and it was very, very steep hills, just chalk. You couldn't really grow much on it other than grassland because it was so difficult to get a tractor down it or up it, and also the ground was so hard. It was very, very difficult, and it was very, very difficult to drain. So we had sheep on ours, and of course some cows. My dad had a herd of beef stock, and the interesting thing is that people say to me, "Oh, I'm vegetarian," and I say, "Great, good on you," because that is good. And all you vegetarians who made that life choice, and I'm trying to cut down on the meat that I eat and the dairy produce, and that's all good for us. Doctors will tell us it's all very good for us, good for our heart, etc. But of course, there's a knock-on effect. There's a domino effect that in farming that goes right down the line, isn't there? Because if people say, "Oh, I don't drink milk anymore," or "I'm not going to eat meat anymore," that has an impact further down the line. So there won't be any milk, because in order to get milk, you have to have, whether that's goat's milk or sheep's milk or cow's milk, the animal has to be pregnant, has to be having young. So if you then say, "Oh, we're not going to have any more beef cattle, or we're not going to have any more sheep," then there won't be any milk, because there'll be no animals to produce it. Because how will the cow produce milk if you don't give it a calf, if it's not got a calf, got young? So there's a knock-on effect, and I guess that goes all the way down the line to you, because if you then grow, say, barley for cattle feed, then that's going to impact on your livelihood as well, and you'll have to think about what you're going to do differently. And so there is a knock-on effect, is there?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, farming, however we look at it, I know there's a nice tweet picture of us walking out kicking chickens, and like we walk out, my wife goes and collects the eggs. Farming is a business at the end of the day. We grow stuff to sell. We need a margin. We need to make money. We need to produce what the consumer wants. Now, if you do cut down on meat and dairy products, it is going to definitely have an effect on me. But we can sit here debating this. There's debates out there. You can listen to as many podcasts as you want about the not eating meat, climate change. But I'm going to try and scat it down in a nutshell. So here we go. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you to eat meat or not eat meat. Your life, your choices. I mean, I'm totally fine with that. It's the thing that frustrates me sometimes is why people are doing it. Like, I'm not saying don't eat meat, and I think people who do eat meat and trying to cut down should not feel bad at all. Should not feel bad at all. You can just see the trend of the way the meat's been at, and it comes, again, going back to the massive event that happened in 1940, after that, the agricultural policy was to produce as much food as you can cheaply. Because all this food was just available after the 50s and when we got back on our feet again, food was so cheap, so people could afford to eat more meat than what they ever have done in their life. And because that trend has been set right up to now, meat has just been so cheap, everything's been so available. So we are kind of overeating meat as such. Now, if you're eating meat to help cut down the environment, I would say that you are not really helping as much as what you think you are. You can still eat meat and you can still help the environment as long as you source it locally or somewhere that's sustainable. Now, a lot of the facts that have been floated about on the media anywhere, I hope people like shout at the radio, just double check your facts, because a lot of it are from feedlots from America. They're feedlots from Argentina. These are the places that are ripping up trees to put beef cattle. Where here in the UK, I'm not a beef farmer myself, but I do know some beef farmers, and I've seen the good work they're doing. They are working very closely with the soils and their beef cattle. So the beef eats meat, obviously. They're not overgrazing. They've put them out on grass. They're moving them quickly. There's one day grazing, so they're moving the herd all the time. Of course, that herd is eating the grass. It's then putting more manure back in the ground. The microbiotics that are inside that soil are eating that, and they're getting healthy. And you can see the cycle, how this is going. So if you are eating meat and thinking about cutting down, do it if you want to. But if you want to keep eating meat, eat a little bit less. Look for sustainability. Look for local farm shops. Just look in the supermarket. If it's got a red tractor on it, I guarantee you that it's been done in a sustainable way, because we have to meet modules that make sure that we farm in a sustainable way. So you can still eat meat and not feel bad about it if it's sourced as sourced sustainably and cleverly.
Listen, children, you've got to go and meet Luke on his YouTube channel, which we'll talk about in a little while, because he teaches us so many important things about farming, and you'll learn so much. And you parents, you'll learn so much. So even if you don't read, even if you find reading boring or whatever, go on to Luke's YouTube channel, and you can still learn a great deal. And if you're lucky enough, you might even get him into school, which we'll talk about in a little while. But with the news over these past few weeks that Britain is heading towards 70 million people in a few years' time, the demand has never been more greater on you to produce the food for us.
No, it is. It really, really is. Like the population is getting bigger, so we need to produce more food. But also as well, we do need to do it in more an environmentally sustainable way. Now, we keep banging on about British produce, and I just said that, and I'll tell you why you should select British over anything else. It's because of our high standards. Now, people are probably going to laugh about that, but we have the highest standards in the world compared to any other nation. And even sometimes, even within the EU as well, we are definitely the world leaders within this sustainability, with traceability and also safety. Now, without getting too boring, and I don't want to bring the podcast down, and if any government minister is listening, government policy, if anyone even in touch with the news and stuff, government policy is changing into the way that they're not actually too concerned about how much food we produce. That's not even on the agenda. The food security is not on the agenda. What is on the agenda is nature. Now, I'm a firm believer that we are farming with nature. I'm just looking around now and can see all the nature. So if we do need to put food security at the heart, it should not be, again, at the detriment of nature. But at the same time, the government policy is actually encouraging farmers, not even farmers, but landlords, landowners, to not bother growing crops in their fields anymore and actually just leave it.
Just leave it fallow.
Just leave it, and the government will pay you to leave it fallow.
Yeah.
So that is not helping with combating, like you said, the food shortage we are heading towards, which is going to lead to us importing more goods into this country. And dare I say it, a lower standard than what we could do in the UK. Even though we have saved the nature, we are putting ourselves at risk in importing this stuff. But we don't know how it's been produced. I know that people are going to argue that it is produced in a way that is safe, though some people might not declare how it's been produced, if you like. In the UK, we will get found out because of the red tractor audit. We cannot pull the wool over them guys' eyes. Everything below the red tractor label, it's been traced all the way back to either seed, even the generation before its seed, all the way up to you get to your dinner plate. There is a paper trail, and there is traceability and accountability as well along that food chain. So that's when you are looking 100% look for the red tractor. Buy British. Not only supporting British farmers, you're supporting local communities as well. You're actually having a higher standard of food. As I said previously about the children don't know where the food comes from, this is one vitally important to get into the schools. And again, if you listened to last week, I did blame ourselves as farmers not for doing this earlier. But it's to get into schools and not just teach where food comes from, so they make that connection, so they can, when they get older, make better choices, and will help with diets as well. But it does help as well to encourage the next generation not only just to eat the produce we produce, but actually become part of the produce, or help produce the produce, help to produce the produce that we produce. Now, that was a tongue twister. In the industry, we need to farm more. We need to farm more, as we just have been through, and as well in nature. But we don't need people. We do need people to sit on tractors and to grow food, but also as well to do this research into how we can do it better. Not if you listen to the first one, the industry's changed no end. We've got a lot more technology. We also need a lot more scientists involved in doing research to how can we do this better? How can we do the balance between the not damaging the environment, but also producing more food? How are we going to do this? This is the transition we're in at the minute. And the next generation that we're talking to now, that in your schools now, these are going to be the ones that are going to come up with the answers. These are the ones that are going to have to follow through and carry on and make sure that we are doing it better than what my generation did. So this is why it's important to get into schools and just encourage, and also just to get farming back on the map.
You come in and you give them a race to grow potatoes, you know, and that little competition like that. Or we have plantlet culture that we've had on the show who grow things in test tubes, and the children can grow things like that. Or even if it's only a school that's growing a bean on a piece of tissue paper, the excitement of watching that bean burst to life and to grow is the nursery slopes of a potential farmer in the future.
Oh, definitely. You still get a massive buzz. I mean, I say buzz, I mean more a sigh of relief when I see something that I'm growing in the field that's actually come up and it's going to grow into something. But the children, when you see them, that they realise that they themselves can grow something. They don't rely on me to do it. They're little, you know, your minds, if you just got anything at all, just take a seed out of an apple, if you like, and put it on a bit of tissue paper and put some water on it and just watch the shoot come. Just when you realise you can do this, the world just opens.
Yeah. And
they know that they can do this, and how stuff around them grows. So if you are listening, why not have a go?
Absolutely.
You don't need too much at all. You just need a pot, some soil, which you can get compost from a garden centre, or just go and look and see if there's a bit of soil outside. Just put it in the pot, and then just put the seed in, put a bit of water, put it by a windowsill and watch it grow.
Yeah, and all you head teachers and senior leaders out there, of course, that dovetails in nicely with the STEAM agenda that, it is about science, it is about technology. Oh. All of this stuff dovetails together, and Luke has got some amazing resources. Now, can we turn to what you offer schools and what you offer families, Luke? You've got so many resources. I'll put a link to all of your links on the podcast, so people can go. We haven't got to worry about mentioning them all, but you've got so many. Are there things that you want to particularly highlight the work that you do?
I've worked with several organisations that are absolutely fantastic. I know that I work with them because they're so fantastic. The STEM program, farming and agriculture, people have not realised how much science, technology, engineering is involved in it. And NFU education is definitely 100% the best resources ever. They're literally doing their life science lessons now, which evolved around the STEM program. I've been to Downing Street teaching kids about the STEM program and how agriculture is involved within STEM and science and technology. So if you are looking, the teachers are listening, they want to look at that 100%. Younger children, if we want to just dabble in a bit of agriculture to learn where food comes from, Kids Country has some amazing resources on their website. to get involved into doing stuff. There's step-by-step guides how to get kids, and how it all ties into a lovely lesson as well. Teachers are listening, and even children and parents. You just nice, easy stuff you can do at home. How to grow stuff. Even when you've grown something, it tells you then recipes how to make it into stuff. And even when I come to myself, this is why I'm so proud of what I do. And I love talking to children. I love telling them where the food comes from. So when I do a lot of school talks, I talk a lot about wheat, because everyone eats bread. Sugar beet, because no one knows we grow sugar in the UK at all. They think it's all imported, or some people even think it's a factory-made food, that we actually just make it using chemicals. And then also potatoes, because who doesn't love potatoes? Everyone loves potatoes. Now, I try and make it when I go into schools with any of them organisations, or as myself as Farmer Luke, I try and make it as interactive as possible. I know that's hard when you teach the subject, but I have a lot of props. So I take a lot of small-scale machinery in, so kids can realise I can bring a tractor in. It's hard to get it in the classroom. A combine harvester is just a no-go with some of the size of the school playgrounds. So I bring them all in so I can show them the farmer journey from seed all the way up to something that they eat in the supermarket. And depending on what the kids' ages is as well, it depends how much they need to know. So I know kids are listening to this a bit boring, but if they're youngsters and they know that I grow wheat and make bread, that is a win. I'll take that all day long. When they get older, I like to sprinkle in a bit of nature and how we're actually farming with the environment. And when they get really older, into like their teens, they're starting making these decisions, how they're going to buy stuff and what a farmer looks like and what the things are doing, and they can actually be a career in agriculture. I talk a lot about careers in agriculture and about how my farm depends on a team. I'm only a tiny cog in this massive machine that gets the food from the plate. It's nothing to do with me how it gets, like the products you're eating. I've only just a part of that chain. I'm not the one only producer that has to get involved to doing this. And also as well, I like talking to the older kids about different techniques we're having. So we've just been talking before the podcast was on about how they used to have a 2-furrow plough or 3-furrow plough. You'll see the ploughs are not much on farms anymore. The plough's now a reset button. It's an emergency button, and we need. A lot of us are now going down to mini-till or no-till or direct drill.
Really?
So mini-till means we only just move the soil as much as we need to. We need to preserve it so future generations can, but also we need to use it as well because we need to grow food. So we are in the midst of this balancing act to try and find out where is the optimum level that we can get so we're preserving it, but also using it as effectively as we can as a great resource. If we just stop growing stuff down here, then where's that shortfall going to come from? Where are we going to produce these other crops that we can produce down here on the fen, like the potatoes we do, or the carrots we do, or the salads we do? Where's this all going to come from? Are we going to import it? Then what's the point in growing the UK? Again, I go back to the argument that we're importing a lower standard of food. So this is, again, why we're at the forefront, and I like to tell children, because these are the future that are going to help farmers like me decide on what we do. We need people that are interested in science and technology to help us produce this food in this balancing way. I was with a lady a couple of days ago whose job is to look specifically at the fen and the soil to find out how can we farm, not just preserve it, but they're looking into doing research into re-wetting the fen. So completely letting it go back to marshlands, keep water levels up, but looking into how can we farm with it. So they're not even saying now, no, that's it, we're off limits, we're just going to leave it, wet it and leave, that's it. Because they're realising that sometimes that's not quite I don't want to spoil the talk if anyone wants to go and listen to them, but they're finding out that's not quite the optimal way to preserve it. So they're trying to work out so one of the ideas is to raise the water level and then leave it, and then drop it, plant the crop, raise it again, leave it wet, and then when we come to combine it, drop it again, take the food off it and bring it back up again. This is just mind-blowing stuff that you don't think that is involved in agriculture. Going back to the stereotypical farmer that we just plough the field and then we just take our wheat to Mr. Tesco's. It is a lot different. It's a lot more business, science-based, technology-based than I think people give it credit for. I know I keep banging on about it, but when people meet me, they can't believe I'm a farmer. I go into schools with with energy education, and I've been going in with a lovely lady. Again, this farm's just outside of this area, and they can't believe that she's a farmer because she's female.
If you're a head teacher or you're a senior leader, don't think we're just talking about young children growing beans here, because you do work right up key stage 3 and 4, don't you?
For 16-year-olds, I've done A-level stuff. I've been into schools explaining agriculture to 17-year-olds who I could not believe knew a little about agriculture as they did. Now, I know you would have thought at some point in their life they would have put a connection together, but they didn't.
No.
They really didn't. But again, I wasn't teaching us to like the basics. We was into technology. We was into microbiotics and stuff like that, which was really enjoyable. And I couldn't believe how many of them listened to me. I thought I was just going to switch off and go, who's this idiot talking? But no, I really, really enjoyed that. So, yeah, if you are an A-level teacher, like definitely agriculture, it ticks all the boxes.
How do you find all the time? I know that when you're a farmer, it's a lot of hard work. How do you manage to do that and visit schools, Luke?
I squeeze it in. I have a real passion to do this stuff. So I make sure that I've got the time. Now, I tell you why that drives me as well. It's not just because of the kids that don't know about agriculture. It's also a personal thing, because farming is, even though I love the industry, I've grown up in it, I think it's brilliant, does grind you down. Like it's the grind of repetitive stuff. It's the grind of stuff going wrong. It's the weather. Now, when I go to schools and explain agriculture, to see the children's faces about how like wonderful this stuff is, and I can't believe you do this, and you come back with a sense of, yeah, you're re-enthusiastic for the industry. You love it again. You're sitting on the tractor with a smile. And it's the same with my social media. Like I try and squeeze as much as I can because I love explaining agriculture. And I do daily vlogs as much as I can on YouTube. So every day you'll see what I'm up to, whether we're bagging potatoes, ploughing. You'll see this today. You wouldn't see the podcast, but I will say I've been on a fantastic podcast today. And what I was actually sitting on the tractor I'm doing today, so look out for that one.
Right, I'll do that.
It keeps me on track. I do a lot of time lapses. I explain what we're doing, and I don't want to ruin the episode by not doing it. Or just hiding for 10 minutes on my phone looking at Facebook, because I want to show the people what I'm up to. So
you've got such enthusiasm and such a calling for the work that you do and the children that you teach. I'm sure there's an alternative universe somewhere in the mists of time where there's Luke the teacher, who's probably, teaching all the children, because you've got all the gifts and skills to be a teacher, no doubt about it. The way that you've spoken today puts a lot of teachers to shame, because we've got to get farming and food production onto our syllabus more, because if not, we are going to slip down that slippery slope you talked about in part 1, where, children are going to grow up not realising that, just thinking that it just appears like Mary Poppins' bag, the food, the cereal box just appears in the cupboard and just by magic. And we don't want that. We want them to know that their box of whether that's cornflakes or sugar puffs or whatever, their box was all created by somebody sitting on a tractor that looks like a Apollo 11. The work you do is so valuable.
Oh, it definitely is, and it all works out very nicely within a lesson plan. So you're doing something about maths. You can use agriculture within maths. The amount of maths that I need to use, working out field sizes, working out drilling rates, working out how much money I'm going to lose this year or make this year. But then you could do that, the science, the biology into it. You can even go the DT, the creative stuff, the technology involved in it. Well, every aspect of what a kid learns can relate back to agriculture.
Well, Luke, it's been wonderful talking to you. Perhaps in the future, you'd like to come back on the show and tell us about how you're getting on and share some more about the wonderful work you do. Long may it continue. Listeners, go on to the text of this podcast and you'll find ways of getting in touch with Luke. I'll put on the link that will give you all of the things that he does and all the things that he offers, him and his wonderful colleagues. Let's get more children finding out that box of cornflakes doesn't just appear by magic in a cupboard somewhere. It's actually created on a field down on Daintree Farm. Luke, thank you for your time today.
I've absolutely loved it. Really, really loved it. I mean, we could have easily had a part 3.
You have been listening to the Dogsthorpe Infant School podcast. Join Captain Dave and his co-pilot Eddie Edster, the well-being dog, on another launchpad soon. Until then, always remember to be kind, be respectful, and most of all, dream, believe, and shine. Dogsthorpe Infant School is part of Hampton Academies Trust.